And there's your front row: Victor Koretsky, Christopher Blevins, Matthias Cesaro, Fabio Puntner, Charlie Aldridge, Luca Brido, Alan Hafferly, Des Finger looking a little further back. What a class field. Simon Andreasen, Filippo Colombo from Switzerland, Lucas Sciatti as well, Julian Shelb, another rider in good form, Carter Woods, Canada, there we go, Mathieu van der Poel, 33rd on the grid. He's got some work to do. If there's anybody who's got the horsepower to move up, it's the Dutch superstar. Bjorn Riley from America, 61. A rider moving up from U23s. Another class act. We've got 74 riders on the start line. And there we go, Nino Schurter. Second row for Nino. Here we are, the start of the UCI Mountain Bike World Championships Elite Men. They're on the starters' orders. Nino Schurter's last World Championships, Mathieu van der Poel. Gonna get all three jerseys. Waiting for the start. And they're off! Great start for Charlie Aldridge. Victor Koretsky in the centre. We've got this slight uphill drag and then a tight left-hand bend before the first road climb. He's going to get the shoulder shot for this one. Looks like Matthias Cesaro, Alan Hafferly, really tight on the corner into this road climb, and then it's quite quickly into the single track. It's going to be a real fight up this first ramp. Keep an eye on Mathieu van der Poel. He's going to have to come from 33rd on the grid. We know how quick he is on this sort of road climb, but obviously we've got the traffic to contend with. At the top of this one, we turn left, and then it's off-road.
We can see Alan Hafferly on the left there. Everyone keep in position just as they come off this tarmac and go on to the first off-road section.
See Nino Schurter just on the right side there, second row, trying to move up through. We see Luca Brido as well, the Italian. One of the favourites going into this race, previous bronze medalist, but also third position in the last World Cup. Second position, sorry, only 2 weeks ago. And it's Victor Koretsky, Christopher Blevins, first and second in your short track on Tuesday. No start loop on this race, we're straight into the course proper. And it's quite quickly into the short track, a lot of rain overnight. It's Filippo Colombo just on that right side, working on the way through. Martin Vidare, Alan Hafferly, Charlie Aldridge, Andreasen.
We can see Mathieu van der Poel moving up into 14th position already.
So we've already taken 19 spots. The Dutch superstar, we see him, keep an eye on that one. But it's Koretsky, Blevins, Puntner. We see Alan Hafferly as well. Andreasen coming all the way through, but at the moment it's Koretsky, like I say, short track winner. Rider in the last month or so is coming back into some form. It's Hafferly, Charlie Aldridge, Lucas Sciatti, Simon Andreasen. Test looking here in the Swiss, top number 9 on the board. Simone Andetto as well, Lars Forster. Mathieu van der Poel coming up through. Filippo Colombo, slightly slower start, then number 16th.
We can see this route section here really starting to spread out that group. There's only 1 or 2 line choices, and we can see it singling out here as they start this first climb.
Some World Cup races, it's a tighter start, so we'll have a wider start loop, but on this course we go straight into the lap proper. 9 laps for these races, so it's going to be a longer race. We reckon about an hour and a half total distance. See Mathieu van der Poel up to 14th position now, so his first test was to move up and try and make this front group. We're going to see a split at some point, and he's doing a good job so far.
Moving from 33rd up to 14th on this first climb is already a really strong start, and now it's just about taking the time, getting through these routes, these slippy sections, and slowly moving through the field.
And we often say that this mountain bike cross country is, you're not going to win the race on the first lap, but there's a good chance of losing it, and you know, a bad crash, mechanical.
It can definitely make your life easier by having a clear first lap.
And it's Koretsky dropping down. We see how the course drying out from this morning. This was wet and slippery. So the climb based on 2 main ascents. This first one more technical, punctuated with Lots of route sections. The second climb a little smoother up to the highest point of the course. Still, it's Victor Koretsky in control. Previous second place last year at the World Championships behind Alan Hafferley. Second at Olympic Games behind Britain's Tom Pidcock. You see Charlie Aldridge going through. Tom and Andreas and number 13 boy Luca Brido. Luca Schwartzbauer, Van der Poel coming through. You see Martin Fadare as well, rider with a World Cup win to his own credit this year. Luca Flückinger third in the last race. We had a World Cup race in Leger 2 weeks ago. You know, that was the last form check.
And there was quite a lot of rain last night, overnight, so this course was pretty wet and slippy this morning, but we can see for the elite men here, it's really starting to dry up. Yeah, really good conditions now for these races, 12 degrees, so not too hot. And it has dried out considerably. I mean, it's warm enough now. We see Charlie Aldridge just dumping some water on himself, just trying to cool down. Filippo Colombo coming through. Again, Swiss superstar. Just keep an eye out for Nino. We've got Nino starting 27th at that first split. Yeah, so not the best of starts for the GOAT. 27th for Nino Shirt at the moment, so drifted back a little bit on this first lap. But if anyone knows how to move through a field, it's Nino Schurter. So we're now on this second climb. This one a little smoother than the first one. And it's a really good start for Mathieu van der Poel. A really tough test, and we saw in the last race, first World Cup, well, taking on 2 World Cups this year. First one being another Mestre, which didn't quite go to plan, so we say that much. 2 crashes out the race, fractured scaphoid, so absolute nightmare. But we see the Dutch rider working up the outside. This is a good section for Van der Poel. He can get the power down. You see he's moving back up, and this is a key section. Trying to get as high up on this first climb, and then on the descent there's always going to be a stretching out. There's going to be gaps between riders. Really important for him to move up. It's just the highest part of the circuit. Gets really steep at the top, and then we're into a long mixture of technical sections and features on the way down. Yeah, so this is the longest descent on the course, and to start with we've got a few little ups and downs where you still have to stay on the pedals. We can see here Mathieu van der Poel really squeezing to overtake as many riders as possible before we get into this descent. Mathieu van der Poel just coming through, taking the front wheel off Luca Brido. So Van der Poel doing a really strong first 6 minutes, going from 33rd now up to 6th, 7th position. Okay, so Mathieu van der Poel making up a big amount of spaces on that first half a lap. It's putting him in good stead for the rest of this race. So we've reached the highest part of the course, this lap 1, 7 minutes in. We drop down a little technical section, and then another little punchy climb, and then we're into the first long downhill section. It's the second part of the course. Starts off in a rock garden, a couple of transition sections, then we flow into a waterfall section. Really steep, small little jump into a really steep, fast berm. And then an off-camber section all the way to the tarmac, start-finish. In this section here, if you're a good descender, it's somewhere where you can make up time. Definitely. There's lots of different aspects to this descent. And it's also about being able to ride efficiently to recover as well. I think at this point, riders are just going to do what they can to have a clean, fast descent. But later on in the race, it's a real opportunity for riders who are good technically to use it to attack, to force their competitors to maybe go a bit faster than they would like to. But right now we've just got this one line. It's Victor Koretsky. I say he'll be full of confidence after his short track win. The last couple of World Cups, after he had a strong start to this season in the World Cup race, there's 10 World Cups across the season. We've had 7 so far. Starting back in April in Brazil, now Rachar. The last race 2 weeks ago in Leger in France. And Victor Koretsky, after last season, it was so strong, an amazing season. 2024, the last couple of races a little off form, but bounced back at the short track on Tuesday with a win. Yeah, he's going to take so much confidence from that Tuesday race into today. Sprinted against his trade teammate Chris Blevins for the win on Tuesday, but he looked strong, he looked sharp, and he looked confident. And we can see that today, off that start line, he was straight there.
And it's Matthias Cesaro, nightmare for the French rider, one of the favourites for today's great form recently, but a flat tyre coming in for a change in that tech zone.
And Victor Koretsky and Chris Blevins have got just a little gap here on Fabio Punter. It's not looking quite as comfortable and fast on these rooty sections.
So this last descent down the Red Bull roots and rolls, it's off camber, really rooty. This section earlier for the women's under-23 race was causing a bit of chaos early on when it was wet, but it is in the sun and it has just dried out a little bit, so not causing too many problems now. Yeah, so Filippo Colombo, Swiss rider on Scott. Number 16, and it's Christopher Blevins from America. Victor Koretsky, specialised trade teammates. Fabio Punter in the second group. Hathaway, Badare, Bredo, Mathieu van der Poel, Filippo Colombo just getting back on terms. Victor Koretsky, Blevins, both specialised trade teammates, making an alliance at the front, just working together well. But Mathieu van der Poel just moving up now into 4th position on the wheel of Fabio Punter. We've just come through the first lap. Christopher Blevins, Victor Koretsky, small gap coming back. The 1-2 in the short track race on Tuesday. But the news is Mathieu van der Poel doing a fantastic first lap. 33 on the grid, but has already worked his way up into 4th position. 5 seconds off the front in a strong second group with Fabio Punter, Alan Hathaway, Martin Vadare, Luca Brido, Luca Sciatti as well, Tess Flukinger, Andreasen, Schwartzbauer, Charlie Aldridge, 12th position at the bell. Nino Schurter now back, 36th position. Just drifting back. The 10-time world champion. His last World Championships home soil. There was always a dream that he could make it number 11, but not looking like his day so far. But here we are, we're off to the first main climb, and Victor Koretsky makes a mistake.
And Alan Hathaway takes that left line and gets clear around that stalled front group.
And this is on this main climb that it gets super technical, and we've got patches of steep climbing and flats.
And it's a natural course, which means that you get to choose your line. Some of the man-made courses, there's just like 1 or 2 options, but here you can go left, right, middle, and as this course dries up more and more through the race, the line's going to develop as well. It's a real opportunity to make up places, especially if people on front make those little mistakes.
And what happened to Koretsky then? Oh, that's so steep.
It's really steep, and the routes have really come out as they've been ridden more. So he'll have just stalled, maybe had a little bit of spin, lost a bit of traction, and then you have to unclip. There's no way to start on something that steep.
And I suppose for a lot of these riders, obviously the conditions changed. So it's previously dusty. The rains happened overnight. A lot of them, it's the first time they've really seen the circuit.
Yeah, so they will have trained pretty much all week on a really dry course. It's been getting dustier and drier. So Alan Hathaway, last year's world champ, has got a couple of second lead there after that mistake from Victor Koretsky.
Yeah, Hathaway looking strong.
Luca Bredo moving up, Mathieu van der Poel sat in 4th position.
So Alan Hathaway, interesting one. Obviously last season, men's world champion, bronze medal at Olympic Games. Made a decision to swap over to have a mixed programme that year, mixing up road and mountain bike. Slow start to the season, but 5 seconds now. The gap from Hathaway to Koretsky after that mistake.
Yeah, so Alan's had a bit of a mixed season, and I think we're seeing him, just starting to come through a little bit more now, getting that balance between the road and the mountain bike.
His best World Cup this season was 4th position in Ligier in the last race, so coming into form just at the right time. This front group now, these gaps just appearing. So Hathaway from Koretsky, small gap, he made a mistake, was forced to dismount. Luca Brido coming through now. Mathieu van der Poel, Christopher Blevins, Luca Sciatti, Tess Flukiger. As Koretsky drops in. So we're on the second lap of the Elite Men's World Mountain Bike Championships. It's Alan Hatherley now. 5-second gap from Victor Koretsky. Luca Brido. Mathieu van der Poel making this front group, going from 33rd on the grid up to 4th position in one lap. Christopher Blevins. Luca Sciatti. Matthias Flungen. Gaps just starting to appear, and it's Alan Hatherley, last year's world champion, putting the pressure on. I'm just looking at this mistake by Koretsky, Annie.
Yeah, so he just took that right line, which is just a little bit steeper. And after the rain and the amount of riders on course, those routes have just come out a bit more. We saw him lose a little bit of traction, and Alan Hatherley take the opportunity to take the different left line, overtake Victor, Chris Blevins, and just get a little bit of a gap there.
We see Alan Hatherley coming through the second feed station, putting the pressure on. Victor Koretsky just struggling to go with it and close that gap.
Van der Poel,
Brido working hard.
Van der Poel taking a bottle and looking pretty relaxed on the bike.
But did let the wheel go. You know, to Luca Brido on that descent, we can see if there is a weakness for Van der Poel, it is on those technical sections. The full-time mountain bikers just that little bit faster.
So Van der Poel, obviously on a cyclocross bike, exceptionally skilled, really skilled on the mountain bike as well. But these guys who race and train on the mountain bike day in, day out, we saw at the last World Cup in Ligier, Van der Poel was just struggling on the technical sections to hold the wheel and to go as fast.
We just see Charlie Aldridge going through, a rider that unfortunately missed the short track race on Tuesday. Due to some illness picked up. He started today. Unfortunately, his teammate, Cannondale trade teammate, the Swiss rider French rider Luca Martin, was a non-start today. It's a real shame for him. A rider in great form, winner of the last World Cup, but yeah, it's a no-start today for Luca Martin.
And Alan Hatherley's got a 10-second gap now as we're getting close to the top of this second climb. Chris Blevins just starting to get in position.
I think it's Christopher Blevins realising that we know how quick Blevins is on the descent, so needing to get into position near the top of this climb.
Like we said, this is the longest descent on the course, and if you've got a clear track in front of you, it means that you can ride your pace, you can ride your lines, and maybe he's seeing that as an opportunity to try and close back onto Alan Hatherley's wheel.
But the gaps appearing. Martin Vidari, 12th position. And then a decent gap back to Germany's Luca Schwarzbauer. Just rider Filippo Colombo. And then we see Matis Azaro as well. Flat tyre the first lap, but he's working his way back through. 40 seconds behind now for the French superstar. A real shame. Another rider on really good form in the recent World Cups, and a flat on the first lap for Matis Azaro. And we're at the top of this, the peak of the course, top of the second climb as we drop down. It's South Africa's Alan Hatherley, the reigning world champion. He's got a decent gap now with this group, and you see Hatherley just on the left. That gap was 10 seconds. Looks to me like he's gone out a little bit further as he drops into the rocks.
And how the course doubles back on itself, it means that Alan Hatherley will have been able to see where his competitors were there, seeing how much of a gap he's got.
Yeah, and he's obviously super experienced, but one of those riders that is always good with his pacing. You know, you never see him blow up, or rarely makes mistakes.
Yeah, he's really good at settling into his race pace and riding to what works for him, what's comfortable. A super calculated rider.
Just seeing great shot of Matis looking and just dropping down. Rider in good form as well. Third in the last World Cup 2 weeks ago, and a rider that always performs well at World Championships. So we have Victor Koretsky, Christopher Blevins, Luca Brido, Mathieu van der Poel, Luca Sciatti doing a really good ride as well. You know, he's in good form, moving up 19th on the number board. And we did see in Ligier that Van der Poel was losing considerable time to this front group once he got to the front, but lost a lot of time on the descents, and he's had a couple of weeks on the mountain bike, lots of practice, lots of wrecking. Looks smoother this week. Yeah,
I think he will have come away from that last World Cup in Ligier 2 weeks ago and gone, right, what can I work on, what can I improve before this World Champs? We've seen him lose about 10 seconds on each descent in Ligier. There was 2 descents. So he's losing a lot of time from that technical stuff. And here, yeah, he's looking just a bit more comfortable on the bike, just a bit more time, specific training.
So Van der Poel, 2 weeks ago at the World Cup, again had to start 33rd on the grid, but managed to work his way back to 6th. So a really strong ride, but compared to his high standards of looking for a rainbow jersey.
And Alan Hathley looking super fast and smooth on that section.
Yeah, carrying a lot of speed. Nasty little section here, and we saw in the women's race yesterday, Alessandra Kerler going over the bars there.
On a natural course like this, with all these roots and the mud and the dirt just moving slightly with each lap, it's really easy to take the same line that you did the lap before, but to have it just change a little bit, which means you can slip out, lose that front wheel and make little mistakes.
The rider we've just seen in the background just getting onto this front group, doing a really good lap. Italian Simone Avendetto, previous under-23 world champion, just making contact, so a good lap for him. Alan Hathley coming through, so starting lap 3. And then it's a big group. Christopher Blevins, Victor Koretsky, Luca Brido, Van der Poel, Lucas Chiatti, Simone Avendetto. Teos looking at a really strong group, 15 seconds back. And we got a gap back to a third group. Fabio Puntanes, Simone Anderson, and a third Italian, Yuri Zanotti.
So that first lap was a 9:46, and then we've just had about a 9:50 for second lap. So the pace is on and staying strong. So we can see Nino coming through this rock garden here.
We see Lukas Schwarzbauer coming through. Matis Azaro coming back 52 seconds. Here we are starting lap 3. Filippo Colombo in his group, Lars Forster. Charlie Aldridge as well just off the back. Filippo Colombo. And it's Alan Hathley, reigning world champion from South Africa. Got a little bit of a gap on this very section. Victor Koretsky made a mistake, but that gap's grown out. It was a few metres after this section, but extended out to 15 seconds at the start-finish. And a rider that's been building form this year, was placed high, mixing up road and mountain bike, and come to the front of this group now.
Mathieu Van der Poel using that power to get up on that steep right section and move himself into second position.
And it's the first time we've seen Van der Poel hit the front of this group, and you know, we obviously know the power and strength of Van der Poel, and we saw it was evident in Leger 2 weeks ago, but that course just didn't quite suit. Do you think it's a better course for his talents?
Leger, we've got 2 long, pretty smooth climbs, and I think from Van der Poel's time on the road, you could see how he was using his power on those climbs. About 2 4-minute climbs, they pull to the side and just move past so many people. But here, this course maybe plays more into that cyclocross style of power. This is about a 4-minute climb, this first climb, but it's completely inconsistent. It's on-off threshold, steep digs to get up the steep, rooty sections, a little bit off as you go down some dips and carry the speed around the corner, and then the power back on. So it's a really different sort of effort.
We see Van der Poel coming, but it's Matthias Flukinger as well. Swiss veteran coming through, multiple silver medals, never the World Championships. And a rider that's been building form all year. Spoke to him after the World Cup in Leger 2 weeks ago. He was 3rd position there, and he's getting a wiggle on. He's already got a gap over Van der Poel, and he just said after that race 2 weeks ago, he was very happy, really confident with his form, but a rider that was definitely building towards this home World Championships. We see Alan Hathley just dropping down. So this first climb, more technical than the second one, punctuated with short, steep sections, rooty sections, small drop down, and then into a section of switchbacks.
Flukinger really pushing on here.
Yeah, he's gapping Van der Poel, and really busy on the bike.
Yeah, that's just his natural style. I think his upper body is quite relaxed, which means that as he's pushing, you really see him working and moving that upper body.
Yeah, Flucker, one of the best technical on the course, especially on wet routes. I've seen him, he's got some of his biggest victories on wet days, and he would have been happy with a bit of rain last night.
Yeah, I think so. I think he spent a lot of time riding the mountain bike in the Swiss mountains with changeable weather, and he's always just been one of those riders who's comfortable in the wet, comfortable with the slippy routes, the slippy rocks, and one who can just let that bike move underneath him.
Yeah, and that gap really going out, and it's Luca Brido now that's come past Van der Poel. So the rider's not having it his own way. He went to the front on the climb. But first it was Flucker going fast. We see the speed, just put out a little dabble there, but carrying speed, but Brido as well coming through, carrying so much momentum out of those corners. Yeah, Luca Chiatti now doing a really good ride. Rider that you pinpointed before, when we were chatting before.
Yeah, I think he will have been targeting this, home worlds. And he's one of those riders who seems to be able to really target races and lift some performances out the bag.
Yeah, look at Chiatti. His best result in the World Cup this year was 7th at Nova Mesto, and Nova Mesto isn't as hilly, it's a different circuit, but it's got that same natural vibe and the route climbs. Yeah,
that natural element, which means that it's not necessarily about the big technical features, it's about the consistently needing to ride your bike really well and really cleverly and efficiently.
Yeah, we were just seeing before we switched back to the front, Matti Cesaro. He had a flat tyre lap 1, but he's coming back through the field, working his way up through. Up to 12th now for Cesaro, and he's actually riding the same speed as his front guys, holding at about a minute. At the pace at the front on this second climb. Van der Poel now going backwards. Alan Hafele leading. 19 seconds. That gap going out to Flucker. And again, we then have Victor Koretsky coming through. Brido. Chiatti. But the big news, Mathieu van der Poel.
Looks like
he went to the front, but now he's going south. Does he have a mechanical? Is it legs?
Looks like the legs are tying up a little bit on this longer climb. Maybe it was a bit too much of an effort on that first lap to move through. And we're at 1,500 metres here as well. We are at altitude, and when you have to invest and go over on those steep sections on that first lap, it can take a little bit longer for the body to recover.
Yeah, here at 1,500 metres high, that moderate altitude does take the edge off the legs and the power. We see Alan Hafele from South Africa, that 3 of 9. He's got a 15-second lead over Swiss superstar. Just looking, we see good opportunity for Hafele to just look back, see the state of the racing, and what he's going to see is looking at a gap to Koretsky, and what we are seeing is a bit of implosion. Mathieu van der Poel went to the front of this group, and it looked really ominous, starting to put the power. But then halfway around this lap, just looking to put the pressure on. Van der Poel seeming to, the legs seeming to tie up.
The start of this lap on the first climb, Van der Poel moved himself into second position, looked strong, looked comfortable, and then that on-off first climb, he started to slide backwards in the group, and now on that consistent 2-minute climb, which we expected to see him pushing on, it's done the opposite.
To the second group, Koretsky, Chiatti, Brido, Simone Vendettos, 2 Italians making the front. Christopher Blevins just letting the wheel go. Going to have to use some of those descending skills to get onto this front group. We see Hafele now, that gap just going out. He's looking smooth, confident. He's out of sight as well. You see Mateusz Flucker coming through, super fast on the descents, but he's going to lose sight of the South African. See Koretsky coming through. The best we've seen Koretsky riding now in a good couple of months.
Koretsky took that first lap on, looked really strong, got a little bit swamped towards the back end of that second lap, but has made the decision that he needs to move back through and start closing that gap back up to Mateusz Flucker.
Victor Koretsky coming back out this season at the first World Cup gave a win. But then the form cross-country was just drifting away, missed a couple of races. But that break has done him the world of good, bounced back, and it's the best we've seen him riding in the cross-country since April. But short track win on Tuesday and regained his title. So clearly back on form, but the short track is different to the cross-country. He's got the bigger hills, the obvious endurance as well. We see Matthias Flunken's just dropping into this Red Bull Roots and Rocks Axernen, carrying speed. Guy's so fast on the descent.
He's so fast and confident. The Swiss will have spent quite a bit of time training on this course. Home world, use every opportunity you have to get that home advantage and to really dial in all the lines, all the gears, any equipment you will need on the bike, which tyre choice, using that home advantage as much as possible.
And there's obvious home advantages of not just the length of the climbs, but the style of climbs as well, isn't it? You know, the routes that punctuate the course here. As we see Andreasen now going past Van der Poel as well. And Zanotti moving through too, so Van der Poel now drifting back to this second main group, but we're seeing Alan Hathaway's gone through. Starting now lap 4 of 9. It's going to be a longish race. Going to be close to an hour and a half. Tess looking at 18 seconds, so similar gap. Andreasen looking around, looking for a bit of assistance, but Van der Poel now in this third group. So we've got Luca Sciatti, 44 seconds, Koretsky, Brido, Avendetto, Blevins. And we've got another 5 seconds to a group led by Simon Andreasen, Mathieu van der Poel, Fabio Puntner and Zurianotti. Van der Poel led the climb the last lap of this main group, but then the pace of the other riders just put him under a little pressure and he was forced to just let the wheel go. And interesting to see whether he recovers on this climb. Here we are, lap 4 of 9. South African Alan Hathaway getting a gap after a mistake by Victor Koretsky, and but that gap growing out. 18 seconds was the last split.
And Alan Hathaway delivering another sub 10-minute lap just then, keeping the pace up, pace strong.
We see him mistake the same spot that we see Victor Koretsky the previous lap, really steep on the routes, and Hathaway using that inside line. Yeah,
maybe a little bit longer, but safer. If you can ride it perfectly every single lap, not make a mistake, not lose any time, in 9 laps, that's a huge advantage to even just once messing this up, having to get off the bike, losing your momentum.
We see Van der Poel clipping out, Blevins clipping out that inside line. Not looking like the best choice at the moment. We see a number of riders having problems there. It's more direct, but steeper.
This course has had so much traffic on it, so many riders training all week, and this is the last race of the weekend. So all those routes are just being dug out more and more, and they're super slippy as well. The amount of tyres that have gone over them, the amount of mud's been that dragged on them, makes it a super challenging little section.
And we see a Swiss rider, Luca Sciatti, now number 19 on the board. His best World Cup result, 7th this year. So riding out his skin at the moment in the home world, and he's putting pressure on the rider getting distance from this group. So Christopher Blevins has just dropped off the back, and it's Simon Andreasen, the Danish rider. Another rider showing some good form in the recent World Cups. He's just coming across from that third group now, back up to the wheel of Blevins. But Hathaway, that gap was 18 seconds, now going out to 30 seconds. We saw Tess looking at making a mistake, being forced to clip out and run, and just see there Phil Dixon, Cannondale manager.
We've got Nino Schurter going through on that lap in 45th position, so not moving up too much in that last lap.
So Andreasen now 7th position, 59. Mathieu van der Poel 1 minute back now. Blevins, that group's gone past the back tonight. So Van der Poel, he's holding form at the moment. Obviously, he got dropped from that front group, went back to the second group with Andreasen, but Andreasen will be a good wheel to follow just as he tries to recover.
Andreasen is really good on a bike, really good on this natural, technical kind of rooty riding. He's a super smooth pedaler, which means it's a nice wheel to follow. It's not going to be accelerating and braking.
You see Lucas Sciatti drop down. Oh, to Italian Avendetto, almost losing the rear wheel on that camber. Sciatti doing a really good ride. Similar to Flukider's style. Obviously a small rider, light rider, but busy on the bike, in and out the saddle, moving around. Lap 4 of 9, 34 minutes down. Right, just under 10 minutes a lap, and it's Alan Hafferly absolutely flying at the front. Gap going out to 30 seconds. Ahead of the Swiss favourite. Here's looking, it's Lucas Sciatti leading a group of superstars through. In a second group, Sven Andreasen, Mathieu van der Poel as well. Just see if they can recover and get back on this group. We see Victor Koretsky now as well from France. He was the early pace setter. Just setting into his own pace now, and he's just lost the wheel of Sciatti, Avendetto and Brido.
Alan on this longer 2-minute push right now. He looks like he's just in his own rhythm now.
Yeah, really smooth bike racer, powerful, always in the right gear. It's almost, because he's so smooth, it looks slower, but he's actually the fastest guy on track.
Yeah, looks smooth, which means he's actually being really efficient.
Very little similar to Jenny Rivers.
Yeah.
You know, it's...
So this is that steep little rooty section that Matthias Flukiger just struggled to make it up. And it's just a little mistake, but these are the sort of things that add up and just take it out of the legs over the race.
We talked about on this course, it's when it's a rooty technical course like this, especially in the latter laps, you are going to make small mistakes. It's who can make the least amount of mistakes on a day like today.
Yeah, on a course like this, and in conditions like this, where it's just a little bit slippy and it's drying up and the conditions are changing as you race, it's really difficult to not make a mistake. But it's about making the least mistakes and recovering from them as fast as possible and getting the brain back in line and back on focus.
So at the top of the climb, you see the crowd, see the flags. And that is for Tess looking only second position. But the gap to Alan Haverly's gained 4 seconds. Going out a little bit, it's Lucas Sciatti who's on the move. Back to 46 seconds. We see Brido, Avendetto, Koretsky, Andreasen, Van der Poel and Puttener and Christopher Blevins. But 1:04, but gap to Andreasen and Van der Poel stabilising at about a minute. See Alan Haverly just dropping down into the first main rock garden. It's looking so smooth. And Haverly having a really interesting season. World champion last year. He's got a mixed programme this year. Giant mountain bikes, factory team, and then mixing up with Jaco Alula on giant bikes on the road, and some good results earlier in the season. And at the Arctic Tour in Norway, mid-season, great result there, 11th overall. But then coming back to Leger, so the form's on the up.
Yeah, so he started the season with some road and then had a bit of sickness, a bit of illness, and struggled to balance those two programmes out. So his first season doing the road and working out how to balance the mountain bike racing, the travel with that road racing. But second half of the season, we see him deliver a good result on Leger, and today he's looking so strong. So it could be really good timing.
Yeah, the last World Cup in Leger 2 weeks ago, and Alan Haverly was 4th in that one, his best result of the season. So definitely had the form, and he was coming off some big blocks of road racing, and that's not going to help your technical skills, but what it is going to give you is that extra little bit of horsepower. And one thing that a lot of road racers talk about is this fatigue resistance. So it's not just what power you can produce over the first lap or the first hour, but what power you've got after 6 hours on a road bike, or in this case, in the last 30 minutes, an hour and a half mountain bike race.
And it's looking like this race today is going to be on the longer side of what we normally see in a cross-country mountain bike race. Sometimes we're seeing races come in at about 1 hour 20, but I think we're going to be pushing that 1 hour 30 today. So it doesn't sound like much, but that's almost an extra 10 minutes on what some of these races are.
Yeah, and these races are always, the heart rate is right on that threshold point. But your power, when you look at a power file from an Olympic mountain bike race, it's far from stable. The heart rate is, but the power is all over the shop. So many peaks and troughs and surges and accelerations, especially on a course like this.
Especially on a course like this, yeah. It's all those minute little routes that it's through the legs, but it's also through the core and through the arms that you have to work really hard to stay strong on the bike and to keep the power from the legs going directly down into the bike.
There we go, Alan Hafferley starts lap 5 of 9 at the Mountain Bike World Championships in Crans-Montana. Got a gap on lap 2. He's just built on that gap. Really efficient start, looking smooth. It was 35 seconds at the last split, and it looks Mateus looking as just slowing up a little bit. That gap back to Luca Sciatti. Simone Avendetto, Luca Brido, and then Victor Korecki doing a good descent. He was just off the back of this group, but he's flown down that last part of the descent to regain contact. Really good riding by Korecki, and that gives him this start-finish straight now, just to sit in the wheels rather than pushing the air on his own.
And that's another really consistent lap time from Alan Hafferley as well, coming in just under 10 minutes.
Yeah, amazing speed. When you're thinking in the relay race on Thursday, where the different nations, everyone was doing 1 lap maxes, the fastest lap was a 9:25, and that was in dry conditions. The fact that Alan Hafferley's nudging 9-minute, late 9 laps consistently in damper conditions.
Yeah. Oh. So let's see if he manages to hold that for the full 9 laps, or if that time drops off slightly.
Simone Aron-Johansson, Mathieu van der Poel as well. 7th and 8th position. That gap, 1:1:08. So that's pretty much staying stable. So Van der Poel recovering a little bit. I say, got to 2nd position at one point, had a fantastic first lap. But as you talked about before, Annie, that it's not magic. If you overcommit on that first lap and closing the gap to some of the best mountain bikes in the world, you've got to pay that. Even a superstar like Van der Poel, you've got to pay that back at some point.
Yeah, there's no free recovery on a course like this. The easiest section's that start-finish straight, which is actually quite a bit of an uphill drag. We can see here that Matthias Fluckig is actually being caught by that group behind him right now.
Yeah, so we're back a group of 5, a chase group of 5 now. Victor Korecki. Smart mountain biking, mid-race deciding to change his line, as we see Avendetto losing the rear wheel in the dust now. And this is where Hafferley's got an advantage. We said about this technical circuit, this group just tripping each other up a little bit.
Yeah, if you are the one in front with a clear track, you get to choose the line, you get to choose the pace.
Here we are, lap 5 of 9. Simone Andreasen, 7th position. Mathieu van der Poel, 8th position. Van der Poel just glued to the back of Andreasen, and they are closing on that group for third. So there's a big group of 5 in 3rd position. 52 seconds, so 14 seconds back at the moment. 16 seconds back for Andreasen and Van der Poel. This front group, this second group, main group led by Korecki now. So Korecki's doing a good lap, working his way through. But it's Alan Hafferley, 44 seconds up the road at the moment. South African just working steadily on that gap, and it's just continuing to go out. And it's great to see Victor Korecki coming back into this sort of form.
Yeah, Victor is such a strong rider, and he's such a technically good rider as well. I think he'll be really enjoying this course. able to use his technical skill to his advantage. And he got that win in the short track on Tuesday, so he knows the shape is good and he's going to have his eyes firmly set on a medal here.
And this is not looking good for Mathieu van der Poel. He was on the wheel of Simona Andreasen, and that was a good wheel to follow. We know how smooth the Danish rider is, but Van der Poel just getting distance now.
Just losing another 10 seconds to the front of Alan Hatherley and that last climb.
You see the course drying out. That corner in particular was causing a bit of chaos for the under-23 women this morning. Super wet after overnight rain, but it's dry now. Koretsky absolutely pinning it over those big roots. Carrying speed. It's Brido just on the back foot at the moment. Andreasen coming through Van der Poel.
And we're on lap 5 now, but we can already see the course is looking so much drier than it was on the first lap. That sun getting to all the mud, and also these riders riding the course in a little bit.
So if you missed the start of this race, hope you did, and it was a good one. Van der Poel having to start 33rd in his quest to be the first male cyclist to win all 3 rainbow jerseys, road cyclocross and mountain bike. Started well, moved up really quickly, was back into the front group, hit 2nd place at one point. But then just on the 3rd lap, the wheels just started to fall off a little bit. And he's now been distanced by this 2nd group that we see led at the moment by Victor Koretsky. There's Flückinger, Simona Vendetto, Luca Sciatti and Luca Brido, and it's Koretsky really putting the pressure, attacking the descents. And Hatherley now, lap 5 of 9. He's looking smooth.
He's looking in control. Looks like he's working hard. It looks like he's managing to pace himself pretty well. And that's a big gap, a 1 minute gap on lap 5. On lap 5 of 9.
This is Felipe Colombo, the Scots-Swiss rider, just coming through at the moment in teens. Victor Koretsky, just looking at Simona Vendetto, gaps just appearing, it's Koretsky now. And we see riders just going through little patches of, we saw Luca Sciatti, he was having a good lap and he was pushing on the front. Then Flückinger, then now it's Koretsky's turn as we see your leader, Alan Hatherley, just cresting the top of the climb on lap 5.
Yeah, so you see riders having good laps, good sections of the course, and sometimes that's physical. Sometimes that's mental, and sometimes it's just what suits them. One section might suit one athlete more than the other.
And then we see Mateusz Flückinger now. He wants us. Oh, and it's a nightmare race. We go back to Matteo Cesaro. A flat on the first lap. One of the favourites in this race, definitely for a medal today. And then Simona Andreasen, 125 back, so holding pretty much the same to Hatherley. Fabio Puntner. But Van der Poel now drifting back, lost the wheel of Andreasen, overtaken by Puntner, back to 9th now for Van der Poel, overtaken by Filippo Colombo, 138.
And we had Nino Schurter to go through the start finish there in 43rd place, so holding position, but not where he would like to be.
This is not going to be that fairy tale last World Championships for Nino Schurter. 10 times world champion, his last World Championship. 36 World Cup wins to his name.
When you think of 10-time world champion, that means that he's got a decade of wearing the World Champs jersey.
Nino winning his first World Championships back in Leger 2004 as a junior, following it up with under-23 World Championship and then 10 senior World Champ, like C Champ, and an Olympic Games, just a good measure. 36 World Cup wins. His last World Championships, it will be his last World Cup at home next week in Lenzerheide in the Whoop UCI Mountain Bike Series. It's going to be an emotional one. But back to today at the front of the race, and it's Alan Hatherley coming through the feed. 5 laps down. And
so this is the one section of the course where the athletes have got just a little bit of chance to take on a bit of food, to have a little breather and to reset before going back into that threshold over-under rooty climb.
A really good view now watching this second group going down. Looking at launching into there, Vendetto, Koretsky, Sciatti, Brido at the back. But the speed of Mateusz looking at just dropping down, absolutely throwing it into that descent. Time for a quick drink for the Swiss rider. We're just expecting slightly longer race here. A lot of the World Cup races about an hour and 15, hour and 20 minutes. We're expecting to be about 1:30, maybe just underneath today, on the longer side. So riders going to have to be careful with not just their pacing but their nutrition as well.
Yeah, staying hydrated, staying well fueled is really key in this mountain bike race. Alan Hatherley lapping the Garmin as he goes under the start-finish barrier there.
Yeah, to have the thought of doing that one.
And delivering another really consistent lap. So that's a 10-minute lap there.
Yeah, a rider I know that, you see you have a power meter on, he's got his Garmin at the front of his handlebar, and a rider I know from chatting with his previous manager at Cannondale, Phil Dixon, does really follow the power on these climbs. He's one of those riders that does take notice of it, doesn't just look at it afterwards, he does follow it in the race.
So he'll know how long it's taken him to do each climb on this course. Some athletes really in their training will get a really good gauge and have a really in-depth knowledge of all the numbers that they've been delivering.
When you're racing last, would you keep an eye on heart rate or power, or are you just going to ride on feel?
I think that it's really good to have an idea of both, but when it's a bike race, unless you're at the front and you've got a clear track, you have to react to who's around you as well and make sure that you're making the right decisions for your positioning.
And we see this second group now. As crazy as it sounds, they're all looking at each other. Alan Hatherley is just tapping along, doing his thing, unaware that behind him the gap has now gone to 1 minute and 21 seconds. This group of Simona Vendetto, looking at Sciatti, Koretsky, Brido, all looking at each other, not wanting to take the pace, and the gap going out. So here we go, starting lap 6. Alan Hatherley from a big group of riders, 120 down. And then we see Soman Andreasen, Fabio Puntana, Filippo Colombo, Filippo Fontana, and Matteo van der Poel now drifting back to 11th place. At one point he did get from 33rd to 2nd, but it looked like those early efforts absolutely fried his legs. And the cycling superstar dropping back now, 12th position, as we watch Van der Poel just dropping down these off-camber route sections. And we saw in Ligier 2 weeks ago, the power was there for Van der Poel, and it was more the technical skills that were letting him down. But today, the technical skills seem pretty much on point, but it's the power that's not there.
Yeah, so in Ligier, it was about 4 minute, pretty constant climbing efforts. Whereas here, it's more traditional mountain biking, shall we say, where there's that up, down, over, under kind of power with loads of little spikes in the power trace as you do these steep ups, little downs, and you have to make it over all these routes and rocky sections.
So there we go, just looking at his group coming through. Mattis Cesaro, a flat tyre, possibly a second mechanical, probably had to stop in the pits again. Back now with Christopher Blevins. Blevins now dropping to 20th position, so Cesaro, Blevins, and then Sam Gaze as well. The New Zealander having to work back from 67th on the grid. Back to 21st now, Aldridge, 23rd position, so clearly not recovering from that bit of illness that took him out of the short track. In this big second group, 120 back, and it's Vendetto now. Oh, we see Luca Brido, that was well saved, just slipping out on the routes, and a bit of fatigue kicking in, and just off the back of that group, a rider on the move, Simon Andreasen.
I really think that group taking the time to sit up on that start finish, look at each other, see who wanted to take it on, wait for someone else to push that pace, meant that Simon Andreasen was able to just squeeze that gap down, and he's just at a few seconds off the back of that group right now.
It's amazing to see a group mid-race World Mountain Bike Championship not wanting to take it away. It probably just shows how hot the early pace was, that nobody felt good enough to just hit the front and roll through.
Yeah. And we've still got quite a bit of bike racing to go. And Alan Hatherley, he's not just dangling in front of them as a target. He's out of sight. He's 1 minute 22 down the road. That's a big old gap to think about closing.
And the way that those riders were looking in that second group were almost not thinking of winning and taking on Hatherley, almost starting to think of second
place
and third, which is great for Hatherley, but a dangerous place to be.
Yeah, there was a pause, there was a look around. Who's going to take this on?
And nobody
no one
wanted to do
up.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we saw Alan Hatherley instantly, that gap going from about a minute to almost, 1:22 now. As we see the Swiss rider, probably more of an underdog here. Lucas Chiatti, we know he's had a 7th position at another Mesto World Cup this year, so he likes the natural sections, likes the routes. That's the characteristic of the course there in the Czech Republic. And Swiss rider now working really well, and efficient style, in and out the saddle, a light rider. Victor Koretsky in 3rd, just looking at 4th. Avendetto 5th. Luca Brido, we saw him make a mistake, and he was swinging on the back, and quite often when you are just on the back foot physically, you do make more mistakes, and Luca Brido suffered one of those, and it means that Simon Andreasen as well, the Danish rider, who's been really consistent, 7th position for a large period of time now, but he's working his way back to that big second group.
So Alan Hatherley nearly at the top of that second climb as this group is just beginning at the bottom of it. That's a massive gap.
A gap of 1:22, I mean, it's almost unheard of in men's elite mountain bike racing to have a gap that big.
That big at just 6 laps into the race. And like we said last lap, it doesn't look like he's pushing too hard, like he's overpacing himself. He looks in control. He looks like he is working hard, but that it's not overpaced for him.
And it's with Alan Hatherley, there was a mistake by Victor Koretsky. Alan Hatherley rode that section smooth, and then he gained 5 seconds. But since then, so he didn't have to attack as such. It was just his pace and the pressure he's applying is just causing this gap, and is eking out slowly. But 1:20 on lap 6 of 9, a massive gap for the South African.
That first move when he went into 1st position, it was almost him just taking the opportunity of that mistake of Victor and taking the smoother outside line that was working for him. But to go to the front and just stretch it out to 1 minute 23.
I'm just seeing Van der Poel just working his way through that second feed. 11th position now, 2:16 down for the Dutch rider, so he's drifting back even further. Hatherley keeps pushing on. That gap 1:24 now. Huge gap. The current world champion won that last year in Andorra. Bronze medal at the Olympic Games. World Cup winner overall last season. And he's been increasing his form on the mountain bike all season, mixing up with a road programme. Jaco Alula, 4th. He's had his best World Cup at the last race 2 weeks ago in Ligier with a 4th position. Form was building, but so experienced. And he's got that stage race strength and resilience that the road will give you. So we're not expecting Hatherley to tire or fade. See these brilliant crowds. We know how much Swiss love a cross-country race, and the strength and depth of Swiss cross-country cyclists. And they've got 2 in this second group at the moment. Lucas Chiatti pushing on 2nd position. Tess looking at 4th at the moment.
And just a position check on Nino Schurter, is holding in 44th position.
There we go, 44th for the 10-time world champion. He's going to have to leave it to his compatriots, Luca Sciatti and Mateusz Flückiger, to fight for the medals today. As these guys throw it in, and it's Luca Brido trying to get back on terms. Simon Andreasen now to 7th position, but he's closing on this group. Be interesting to see if he can make it back to this group before we get to that tarmac section through the start-finish. So Sciatti in the second group from Koretsky. Looking at Avendetto, Brido descending really well, just gapping Andreasen. Takes a bit of work to get a gap on Andreasen on a technical descent.
Alan Hathley onto the start-finish straight. Let's see, another time check on the Garmin.
Pretty methodical. He'll go back over and kick himself if he didn't press that lap button. But every lap he's just under the...
And again, a really consistent lap again.
Just under the 10-minute mark per lap, like clockwork. So we know he hasn't gone out too fast. Really smooth on the descent. Then we have this large chase group. Now 4 riders, maybe could be 6 riders soon, as we see Luca Brido. And these riders again just tripping each other up as Avendetto forced to unclip, and that's allowed Brido. Simon Andreasen just to get back on. It's a good riding by those 2 riders just to get back on. It means they can sit in the slipstream through the start-finish, and they'll want Luca Sciatti. But again, on the previous lap, all these riders didn't want to drag the group through. A bit of road race tactics kicked in, and that allowed Alan Hathley's gap to just keep going up. It's 1:23 at the last split as we see Fabio Puntiner and Filippo Fontana is coming through. Filippo Colombo there sitting 10th position, so 3 Swiss riders in the top 10. So it's Koretsky, Sciatti, 1:29 now, so that gap going out a little bit further. Yeah, it's the chase group of 6 riders. So now we're on lap 7 of 9. Alan Hathley, reigning world champion, South Africa. Got a gap on lap 2, but he's now 1:28 on a chase group of 6 riders. Victor Koretsky, Luca Sciatti, Mateusz Flückiger, Simon Avendetto, Luca Brido, Andreasen. Van der Poel now drifting back 14th. Had an amazing start lap. Got himself to 2nd position. But the legs started to tie up. Maybe that early effort. Drifted back now to 14th. Sam Gaze now up to 15th position. So Van der Poel's trained teammate on Alpecin Koenig. So it's Sam Gaze having to start 67th on the grid. Pretty much at the back. He's worked his way up to 15th now. Silver medalist in the past, so it's good to see Sam Gaze back in the mix. And this is going to be big fight now for that silver and bronze medal.
We've got 2 Swiss and 2 Italians in this group.
You see a choice of lines. This is where we saw Victor Koretsky have issues. Mateusz Flückiger as well. And a lot of the riders switching it up mid-race, going to that left line, and it's Luca Sciatti. He's been at the front for this whole lap now. Just driving, keeping the pressure on. Luca Brido and Simon Andreasen did just manage to get back on this group. Be interesting as well to look, keep an eye on number 6, Fabio Puntiner. Always finishes strong. And it's Luca Sciatti leading this group of 6. his compatriot Matthias Flückiger as well. The Swiss, we know the strength and depth in cross-country racing, but in particular men's cross-country elite racing over the years. It's not just been led, but the charge has been led by Nino Schurter, Matthias Flückiger, Filippo Colombo, but Luca Sciatti, good under-23 bike racer. It's taken a while, had some illness and some injuries over the years, took him a while to come back through. But it's this season we've seen him at the front of cross-country racing. 7th at Nova Mesto.
So that gap holding at 1 minute 30 as they crest towards the top of this first climb. Luca Sciatti still leading that group.
Fabio Puntner, number 6 on the board, another Swiss rider, having a really, really strong season.
And Filippo Colombo just in the top 10, so 4 Swiss riders sat in the top 10 right now.
And Haffley.
A little bit of a grimace there.
Got the first grimace for Alan Haffley. Should we allow him that one? 1 hour, 2 minutes in. And Alan Haffley's just shown the first bit of pain on his face.
Simon Andreasen just moving up on the outside as we come into this downhill. Just getting a bit further forward positioning in this group.
Simon Andreasen, 2-time junior world champion, under-23 world champion as well, and one of those talents that coming through the sport won his first World Cup in elite at his first elite World Cup race at Nova Mesto in 2020, and looked like the world was his oyster. Did stall a little bit, had some ups and downs, has won big races previously, but a rider that the form, it does swing a lot. Yeah.
We never quite know what Simon you're going to get on the start line. I think he's had some challenges in the last couple of years, but his form is good right now. This is the sort of course that he's going to really enjoy riding, that natural mountain bike, techie type of course, track.
Yeah, we saw Simon Andreasen winning the World Cup in Araxá in Brazil last season. Really big result. Absolutely tore that race to bits on the last lap, and also saw coming to form a little bit the last race. Well, was 8th for Nova Mesto, sorry, 8th at Leger, sorry. And that was the best World Cup in the previous races, so form was just coming good at the right time for these end of season races and this World Championships.
And Simon finished 4th in the XCC on Tuesday, so already showing us there that it got the legs, was feeling strong.
And I think that obviously the short track race, it's a world championship event. It's a big race in its own right. But for a lot of these guys, this cross-country race is what it's all about. Yeah,
the cross-country Olympic race is the race that the World Champs has been about since 1990. The short track races is pretty new. We're on the 5th year there of the short track has been in the World Championships. So yeah, the cross country is that traditional race that everyone targets.
And what's amazing at the moment, we see this big group and the talent in this group of 6 riders and the races that they've won between them. But they are 1 minute 30 behind a charging Alan Haffley. It just shows this unbelievable ride of Haffley at the moment.
100%. And the thing is that Alan's got this clear track. He's able to ride his pace, he's able to choose his lines. Whereas these guys, they're fighting to be the first into the single track, to be the first into the descent. They're not getting to ride the smoothest line. There, to pull to the side into that rougher ground to overtake just takes a bit more effort. And when you multiply that up over 9 laps over the race, it takes a lot more energy to get around the track, which means that actually it almost makes it harder to close that gap when you're working against each other in a group.
I think there's some tracks where working in a group, there's some flat, fast sections, like you say, there's a bit of slipstreaming to be had, there's a bit of synergy of riding in a group. But I think on this track, like we've seen these groups tripping each other up, it's almost to be like Alan Haffley is on your own and just being able to do your own lines, pick your own pace. I think it's an advantage on this one.
So this is the 4th race of the weekend, and we've seen Finn Truler in the under-23 men's race get clear, win by a minute, be able to ride his race. We saw Jenny Risved having a bit more of a tighter fight, but in the end, she was the one at the front of the race, setting that pace, choosing her lines. And then this morning, we saw the same with Isabella Holmgren. She got clear, and she got to ride the race that she wanted to do. And Alan Hatherley right now looks like he's just doing a copy-paste of that.
Yeah, this course at Crans Montana, change they've made, definitely for the better. It's just smoothed things out a little bit. There's a bit more gravel climbing, still got the nice route technical sections.
Yeah, even this rock garden compared to last year, when actually it was really wet and muddy for the races, and that mud was getting dragged onto the rocks and being pretty dangerous. We saw some big crashes, which is not what you want to see. So it's been filled in a bit. The man-made features toned down just a little bit, but it's a natural course, so you've still got all those that natural technicality to it, with the routes, with the terrain, and with that ground changing from a little bit greasy to almost loose and dusty in places now.
We just watched Alan Hatherley in slow-mo working down this descent, and again, it's that efficiency of Hatherley. I think that's the key word so far, as we see him come through, finishing lap 7. So it'll be 2 laps to go. He presses his lap button.
Or on a slower lap this time. Not much, but not quite like clockwork, that lap.
So our resident statistician, Annie Last, doing the maths. Alan Hatherley just slowing a tiny little bit.
So 10:14 that time.
So it's the first time we see him go over 10 minutes for a lap. So that grimace that we saw, that grimace was 15 or 16 seconds slower.
Let's see what that gap to second place is now.
And the group behind pushing really, and it's Luca Sciatti pushing hard again. Yeah, the form of the Swiss rider, pushing on, pushing hard. Yeah, and Sciatti as well, 25-year-old, so under 23 previously, hasn't been one of the younger riders in this front group. And so Sciatti and Avendetto, both 25, both moving up from U23 ranks.
So at the end of lap 6, the gap back to second was 1:29. And I think that that's going to have eked out just a little bit more on this lap, even though Alan Hatherley did a slightly slower lap as well. So everyone just slowing back a little bit.
But again, we see this big chase group led by Simon Andreasen, just all looking at each other, no one wanting to take it on, and Alan Hatherley, that gap just increasing. Here we go, 2 laps to go. Alan Hatherley with a commanding lead, an unbelievable lead.
Ooh, that's the first little mistake we've seen from Alan Hatherley. Just a tiny little slip on that technical climb section.
We did see him on that last lap, just slowing up by 15, 16 seconds. And that's also the first mistake of Hatherley. So is this a sign that the fatigue's kicking in? That group behind, still a lot of firepower in it. What about 20 minutes of racing left to go for the South African, and this group behind's going to start increasing the pace as they start fighting for that bronze and silver medal. And it's got a sizable gap, but you can see this group is starting to get a bit punchy and the pace is increasing. And it's now Victor Koretsky. This section causing trouble for the group. Koretsky just having to dig deep to keep the traction. And it's Brido going for that right line and working hard to get to himself in second position in the group. One mistake and all of a sudden you're back to 6th place again. On the back foot, 15 seconds thrown away. And really, really tough when you're in a group, especially on those rooty, steep climbs. It'd be interesting to see when an attack comes from this group, when they're going to start racing the second and third. It's been a bit cagey.
It's been a bit cagey. It's got a bit of a longer race than what they normally do. And I think there's just a little bit of that looking and seeing what each other is doing.
We see coming through Mathieu van der Poel, 21st position now. The Dutch rider. Not his day today. I say, looking to win. Oh, his big goal. It was win or bust, and unfortunately it's bust. Got himself up to second place, and the legs tied up. He's been drifting back now for these last 6 laps. At one point we saw Van der Poel made a good tandem with Simon Andreasen, looking like he was going to move back to this second group, but Andreasen did the job. You see Victor Koretsky now just dropping off a little bit, and this rider, this group just splitting under the pressure of looking at, just as we were saying, when's it going to split? Bang on cue. Tess looking, just putting the pressure on, and he's causing the gaps in this group, and Brido just getting distanced.
So Flückiger really pushing on in this section. This is one of those sections on the course where being that first wheel makes a big difference. And you can really see how he's using that speed, using his technical ability on those routes,
yeah,
and through this dusty section.
Is so difficult. The ramps, this ramp before us and the one before, which we had a really good picture of looking at, is so steep.
Yeah, but if you've got a clear track and you can carry your speed and choose your line, it just means you can be just that little bit more efficient. You don't have to think about what other people are doing or worry if they're going to make a little mistake, if you have to go left or right.
And this is a big attack now. Matthias Flückiger, he's putting the pressure on. This isn't just riding a consistent lap, this is him going for that silver and bronze.
Yeah, so we're on lap 8, so we've got 1.5 laps left. That first place at the minute is 1 minute 36 down the road, but we've got a big group here going for silver and bronze, so we're going to see how's it going to play out.
Gaps appearing now. Matthias Flückiger, Simone Amendetto, and Victor Koretsky, French rider, coming through 4th position. And these laps are getting ticked off pretty quick.
And Flückiger's round that corner, out the saddle, straight back, up to speed.
And we know how quick Flückiger is on the descents, especially if it gets routine a bit wet, and that pressure's just starting to fracture the group. Brido looking a little bit laboured. He was my favourite for today. And we did put Alan Hafley in that group of riders that we were going to see in the front 5, but to be leading at 1:30.
And I think Alan will have been happy that it rained overnight, but actually it started to dry up through the day today. I think for him, that South African dry, dusty mountain biking, he definitely prefers it if the course is a little bit drier.
You see it's Victor Koretsky now just struggling to follow the wheel, but really good ride so far from Koretsky. He's been active, led up the first start climb, and after a couple of World Cups that didn't really go his way, it's great to see the Specialised rider come back to form. And
1:26, so Flückiger's closed 10 seconds on Alan on that last half a lap.
So Matthias Flückiger attacking from this group, taking 10 seconds off Hafley, but the lead, Alan Hafley's got 1:26 over this group. Koretsky, 4th position, Simon Andreasen in 5th, Luca Sciatti 6th, Luca Brido now dropping 8 seconds off the back of Sciatti, so he's the first victim.
Brido looks like he was suffering a little bit there.
So here we go, we get a good shot of Alan Hafley just dropping down as this waterfall descent starts off. Rooty loose turns, dropping into this bridge, all dry now. It's super steep down here into this fast berm. Just had a little look down then, the back wheel. So Alan Hafley's almost at the feed station at the bottom. as these riders are at the top of the hill. He's got almost this whole descent lead. We're just following down Simone Avendetto, the Italian rider, previous under-23 world champion, the 25-year-old, and 1:30 back, third place. And it's Mateusz Flückiger, he's closing the gap to Haffley, but he's going to run out of track, that's for sure. I think now Mateusz Flückiger, multiple silver medals at World Championships. Many of which behind Nino Schurter, his compatriot.
But the Swiss crowds are out in force today, making some noise.
Yeah, Mateusz Flückiger won a number of World Cups, but his career, some really huge second places. Second at the Olympic Games behind Tom Pidcock. Second at the World Championships behind Nino. In 21 and in 20. Like the Wout van Aert of mountain bike, the eternal second. Got a class act and so fast on these descents.
And a silver medal at your home World Championships is nothing to be sniffed at.
Yeah, we see the Swiss riders, his trade teammate Thomas Maxson. So it's Alan Haffley takes the bell, gets a lap split on what he'll see it like. Been circulating just under 10 minutes, the last lap 10:15, but Alan Haffley, the South African, only 10 minutes away from his second elite World Championship cross-country win. He's looking really solid at the moment. Really big gap ahead of this chase group that's just starting to get split up. Mateusz Flückiger now in second position. Simone Avendetto, the Italian, in third. As Avendetto just having a problem. Avendetto, probably third or fourth time, made a small mistake on this course today, and they'll all add up. As we see Mateusz Flückiger now he's not looking around. Head down, aero position, 10 minutes next to go for the Swiss rider. You see the pressure he's put, it's completely fractured this group of six, and Victor Koretsky, Simon Andreasen, Lukas Schiatti. Let's look at that gap to Haffley. I think they've closed, but we'll see how much. So the bell lap. So Mateusz Flückiger 1:19. About 20 seconds off Haffley on that lap with the attack, and raising the pace Avendetto 1:23. Koretsky now fourth position. 1:31 Andreasen, Schiatti. And then we see Luca Brido. That's your front seven now. So we're on the last lap. Italy's Mountain Bike World Championships. Final race here from the Worlds. And it's Alan Haffley, one lap to go for the South African. Regain his World Championships title. Unbelievable race so far. Took the lead on lap 2 and just hasn't looked back since. Haven't even seen him look round since.
No, he's a sort of athlete who's really focused on themselves. We can see him lapping his computer as he crosses that start-finish straight. And like we said, like, he likes numbers. He likes to be riding to his power, and that means that it doesn't matter necessarily where people are behind you, because you just focus on yourself. And that's what you need to do. You can't control what those people behind you are doing. All you can do is get the maximum out of your legs and out of your body.
But it's amazing to be working so hard and under so much pressure, and to be looking at your lap times, your power numbers. And as you just see now, a bit of a change around. Mateusz Flückiger just making a small mistake on that technical climb. And that allows Simone Avendetto just to come through. And we're going to see a real scrap now for this silver and bronze medals. Barring incident, it looks like Haffley's got this one in the bag, but we're going to now see a big fight for the other two medals, and it's Lukas Schiatti, the Swiss rider, fourth position, riding out of his skin. Best worlds we've ever seen him do. He's chasing down his compatriot. Mateus looking good, and then Benedetto in silver at the moment, applying the pressure. This is going to be the pain lap for sure, and we can see it written all over Benedetto's face. It's where the cramp is kicking in. You've got to stay on your line.
And you can see how relentless these routes are. It's not just a steep climb, it's a steep climb littered with these many little power spikes as you try and keep traction over the routes.
You see the Swiss coach just on the side. He'll be happy with what he sees. And this group just splitting. Tez looking a Swiss rider second. Schiatti up to fourth now. And it's Koretsky who's just going south. Andreasen, who he looked was coming through this group. He's just faltered a little bit. We've got Swiss riders 3 and 4 at the moment. Then a decent gap now to Luca Braido, the Italian in 5th. Simon Andreasen, 6th position. Victor Koretsky, 7. Mattis Azaro, French rider in form. Flat tyre on the first lap, and then another mechanical, so he's way back at the moment. And Luca Moutain, the other French rider, in great form. Unfortunately, he was ill this week and did not start the race.
So what a strong, dominant ride we've seen from Alan Hathley.
So Hathley, the South African, just coming through that feed, so he's got one main climb to go. One big descent. In about 5 minutes of racing now, till he hits the finish line. So now one of these riders is going to be disappointed. They're getting a good gap now, 2nd, 3rd and 4th. It's going to be a really big scrap.
It's going to be a fight the whole way to the line.
So the fight for the silver and bronze medal at the World Championships. Mateus looking at Luca Schiatti from Switzerland. Going to be cheered on by these masses of home fans, then swallowed by Simon Benedetto. And looking here as well, one of those riders been in the sport a long time, not getting as many podiums or wins as he had a few years ago. He's got really scrapped for them now, but in amazing form coming into this race. And we've got Swiss World Cup next week in Lenzerheide as well, so the Swiss have got plenty to cheer for. As Flucky looks round, literally jumps on the pedals, full gas. Another rider, full gas. You just see the shoulders starting to roll now for Alan Hathley. But he's at the top of the climb, and these riders are just at the base of it.
And Alan Hathley is cresting up to the top of this last climb on this last lap.
Oh, so here we go, the steepest section of this climb.
60 metres left to go.
And you can see the power is fading. I think the finish of this race is going to come at about the right time for Alan Hathley. He looks like he's paced it perfectly.
I would say so.
He was looking pretty laboured on that last section. But that's the last climb. He's reached the peak of the circuit. The South African still 118 up. Unbelievable lead. Just behind now we see Mateus Flucky, and they're still locked in battle. Simon Benedetto.
Are we going to see an attack on this climb?
Oof.
Victor
And they're
Koretsky.
coming back. It's Victor Koretsky now coming back. Luca Braido. Simon Andreasen. This group of 6 has been a real titanic battle. And it's all coming back together at the top of this climb. Let's just see that gap to Hathley. 1:16 now.
Mattis Flucky out the saddle, pushing that pace on this last section of the climb.
Fair play to Koretsky. I thought the lights were going out and he was done, but he's still in for a fight, and it'll be interesting to see if these groups can come back together. You see these riders on this steep section, and it's Benedetto that attacks, looking at big attack from the Italian. Benedetto leading over the top.
Flucky has not responded.
Can Schiatti respond? Benedetto, big attack.
Looks like the legs have gone a little bit there. We've got a long descent, possibility to roll back on, but looks like Benedetto's
reaches the peak, looks round, he's going to like what he sees. He sees the 2 Swiss riders just struggling, and as they look round, they're going to see a chasing and absolutely flying Victor Koretsky, he's finishing strong, just a little bit gap out of Simon Andreasen. But here we go. It's going to be a downhill race now for this bronze and silver medals. Here we go, last lap, mountain bike world champs, elite race. Alan Hathaway a minute up, looking strong, and it's this fight for silver and bronze. All race, these guys have been slugging out from a group of 6, but Simon Avendetto at the moment leading into this descent in the silver medal position, just attacked at the stop of that last climb. It's got a gap, and it looked like the 2 Swiss riders, Mateusz Flückiger, Lukas Schiatti, just couldn't respond, and it's Victor Koretsky, just as he did in the short track race on Tuesday. He's going to finish this one super strong. He's carrying speed. He's going to get back on the wheel of 2 Swiss riders.
And Avendetto nearly pulled 10 seconds out from those 2 Swiss riders on that section, of course.
Yeah, the attack from Avendetto on that climb absolutely flew up it just as the lights were going out for Flückiger, and you see the cramp was kicking in and fatigue as well, and it's Koretsky now. Here we go, Simon Avendetto coming round. Silver position, and we see now these riders all together locked in battle for bronze races. Koretsky has now got back on terms with the Swiss races, and this was going to come down to a sprint, and Victor Koretsky, short chap, 2-time world short track champion. It's going to be a big sprint, but it's Avendetto as we leave through the feed, and we've got one small technical section, but back to the finish. South Africa's Alan Hathaway, almost in disbelief, he took control on the second lap, led to the front of this race, in complete control, regains his South World Championships, and it's South Africa's Alan Hathaway, 2-time XC World Champion, lifts his giant bike above his head. What a race. And it's Simon Avendetto. Attack this front group just over the top of the climb. This group of 6 locked in battle all race. It's going to come down to a sprint finish. Victor Koretsky moving part. And it's Simon Avendetto, the Italian rider, who just gapped. Looking her over the top, but it's Avendetto. Flückiger chasing Koretsky in 4th. He's got back on the wheel. This is for the bronze medal position in front of the home crowd. And it's Avendetto. Koretsky opens up the sprint. Flückiger drops his head. The legs are done. Can Schiatti get back on terms? But it's Avendetto. Silver position. Bronze for Victor Koretsky from France, denying the Swiss a medal. 4th for Lukas Schiatti, 5th for Mateusz Flückiger. But Alan Hathaway, it's all about the South African today. Simon Andreasen, great ride, 6th position for the Danish rider. But Alan Hathaway, we knew he was coming into form. 4th at the last World Cup, last year's world champion. But to 2nd world title for Alan Hathaway.
2 world titles in a row, and what a dominant performance today. I don't think we were expecting to see anyone ride away on lap 2 and look that calm and have delivered that consistent laps.
Yeah, and for Hathaway as well, he's had a strong season, but has not been on the podium of a World Cup race this season.
It's been a strong season, but it's been a mixed season.
Yeah, mixed.
Last year we saw him at those World Cups consistently up there on the podium winning races, and we've not seen that this year. So we know he's strong, we know he had a good result in Leger, but to pull out not just a win, but a win by a clear minute is such a strong ride.
So we were looking at Alan Hathaway celebrating. Luca Brido coming in 7th position. Filippo Fontana, so 3 Italians in the top 8. Victor Koretsky, what a finish for the French rider. Looked like he was done.
What a sprint for 3rd place. Partway through that race, it looked like his legs his legs had gone and he started to drop back. And then that racecraft to move back up onto that group, to position himself, and to just wait on that start-finish straight, using that wheel and sprinting for third.